and welcome to the God is a Geek podcast. My name's Adam Cook. I'm your host this week and most weeks, actually, in fairness. And it's a chilled, relaxed kind of podcast this week. We're just gonna chill and relax. Is that not right, Adam Carroll?
Yes, chilled and relaxed, but would you just say you're tired?
Personally speaking,
yeah.
Well, no, my name's Adam, not tired. And that's the kind of joke you're going to get today because Chris Hyde's here.
Thanks. Dad jokes, left, right, and centre.
Yep,
yeah.
Absolutely. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm up for a chilled podcast.
I mean, it's got to be chilled because Ads is right. Like, do you know? I think we've done this before on the pod, but when you meet people and you're like, "Oh, how you doing, man?" and it used to be like, "Yeah, okay now," and now people are just like.
Just don't ask.
I swear I had that exact situation yesterday in work. Someone came up, I hadn't seen him in years, and it was like straight on. They actually said, I haven't seen you in years. And I was like, Yeah, I know, how's everything? And it's just like...
you didn't even get to the end of the sentence before you're like, oh, I'm done.
I just want my state to, like, I just want when someone says, well, what's wrong? And just once the answer does not be, yeah, I'm tired, man.
Yeah.
I just want someone to go, nothing's the matter. I'm all right.
Yeah.
Everything's
I'm all
good.
right, yeah.
And you know what? And this segues nicely into the video games part of this podcast, which is admittedly the bulk of it. I have been all right because of a video game that's been entertaining me. But I'm not going to start the conversation because we all know the expert on Monster Hunter is unavailable this week. Mick Fraser's not here. But his backup is here, and he's able and willing, hopefully willing, to tell us about a game that he and I have both been playing on different formats, which is a kind of a new thing for a Monster Hunter game. Not overall, because Iceborne and that did come to PC, but generally speaking, they tend to launch on.
Can I
before we
launch in?
Wow.
I need to know one thing.
Yes.
Have both of you played Monster Hunter Stories? And Chris?
No.
Okay. And overall, just very quickly, how kind of excited were you for this? Considering it was being thrown around
That's
with
a fair
Rise.
question.
Were you looking at it and kind of going, yeah, okay, fair enough, that seems all right, or whatever, I might give it a go. Just how were you feeling about it? And then we can get into your actual thoughts.
So my answer to the question is, I was like, all right, I was a bit like literally what you just said. So I was like, all right, yeah, no, all right. But like, I know that my passion for the series is in the meat and potatoes Monster Hunter series.
Like many.
Yeah. And so this one, knowing what it was in terms of, turn-based combat, and we'll get into some of the mechanics in a minute, but knowing what it was going in for, I was like, I'm not averse to it, but I'm not like, I'm well up for this. Go begin to it before I played it. And I hadn't played the original stories on the 3DS?
Yes.
DS?
Yeah. 3DS, I think.
3DS.
Wasn't that long ago, I don't think. I don't think it was actually that long ago. The original one, like the first stories one. I don't think it was like, yeah. I remember it being quite... My memory... Just move on. Forget it. Best not get into that chat.
But from your side, Adam... From your side, the answer to Adam's question.
So, like, it's funny you say your taste is in the kind of meat and potatoes thing of it. Because I don't think Capcom's is anymore. That's what I get from this game. I don't think Capcom's love for the series is in that core game. Because what I see now is two very... They share a lot of DNA, but wildly different games. And I kind of went into this a bit like... I always get... like World was the closest for me. Like, we played that a lot. And Rise I do like. The problem I have with Rise is that I just think it's too similar to World. And it's on a... I'm playing Stories on Switch as well, by the way. But it's on a console that... I think the Switch is showing its age. And I think this game particularly made me want... And we'll get to the Switch Pro. But it made me want... like a Switch Pro, because this game runs badly on Switch, by the way. So my expectations were that I expected it to be kind of Monster Hunter. This is the funniest thing when now Chris and I know how incorrect I am, but I expected a Monster Hunter light. Like, it kind of cut a lot of the... I don't want to say core. I expected it to cut some of the heavy-duty... stuff.
And it does when it depends what you're comparing it to, and that's what we need.
Okay,
we need to get into the.
So I'm comparing it to the modern Monster Hunter World and Rise. And what I would say as well is that when a game that's an RPG is 20 hours in and it introduces a new mechanic that changes the way you play, to me, that's very impressive, because most games by 10 hours have shown you most of what the core is, and you're not going to learn anything of... I mean, 20 hours in, and this probably won't mean much to like Adam. I don't know if it will or not, actually. It will to Chris. So 20 hours in, I'm beyond that now, but 20 hours in, I still didn't have a monster who could swim. And I don't know how. I know where they are, but I was so engaged and wanted to progress that I was like, no, I'll go back. I know there's like Rural Ludroth. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I know that's one there. I know how you catch monsters. There's like there'll be an excellent guide up on God is a Geek by the time you listen to this. There is a very simple way of doing it. I just hadn't done it. And it wasn't like a barrier. It was kind of like, well, I can't quickly get across there, or I can't go and get that treasure chest. And the big one for me was the vines. But anyway, we should pull back, because I expected Monster Hunter Light. That is not what this is. This is
so
insanely deep.
It's the thing is with this game is it is, for me anyway, it is both light and deep at the same time.
Yes.
And I think it's understanding what you're getting, because like I said this to you, Adam, like while we were chatting about it. For me, it's very much like you have Mario games and you have Paper Mario games. They are the same kind of lore, the same characters. There's a lot of similarities between them, but they are very different experiences, and they can exist together. And it's cool if people like one or the other, and they are both very accomplished in what they do, but they're very different. And that, for me, in my mind, is a really good comparison between kind of what people normally expect in Monster Hunter games, where you're kind of going up against a monster and it's like 40 minutes and you're trying to batter it, and that versus what Monster Hunter Stories is, which is battles are over within a minute or two, and it's turn-based combat. It's not kind of real time combat, and that for me is where it's lighter. If people really like the kind of 40-minute battles against a massive monster, that's not that sense of scale, but where the sense of scale comes from.
There is, though, as you get further into it, man.
Yeah,
I know I'm a little further than you, but there is definitely those big, long battles.
But not, I mean, the boss
not
battles
to the extent of what
the boss battles are longer. Let's be clear, but they're not as deep. The core gameplay isn't as long, because every monster in Monster Hunter, like Rise, for example, is longer. But what I will say is where you get the depth, and therefore the hours in this game, is in by kind of, I guess, stepping back from not having live action combat, which obviously it means where they can put into the game is the breadth of monsters. There's over
the wild
breadth of the wild monsters. There's feel free to have that as a podcast title.
It's a bit long, actually, but yeah, go on.
Well, never had any complaints, but
it's a bit long. It's a bit. Actually, I think we've used that, but go on.
Probably. There's over. I can't remember the exact number, but there's well over 100 monsters that you can collect. Makes it sound very Pokemon, but it is very Pokemon.
It is very Pokemon.
It's Pokemon. It's a lot. It's like Pokemon with Monster Hunter, but then
I think it's Pokemon for older people. It's Pokemon for those who. I'm not going to. I don't dislike Pokemon. In fact, I really like it. I think it's Pokemon if Pokemon evolved, and that's a funny way of saying it. But I think this is what Pokemon should have been doing. Like the combat in this game is so fucking good. Like I agree with you, and I think the thing about this, because I find that I bounce off traditional Pokemon games quite often. Because they're the same as they've been for so long.
And
they just don't do anything.
I think the good thing about this game, what it does is it respects my time a lot more than a Pokemon game does.
Oh yeah.
Both in the sense of in Pokemon, like if you want to swap a monster out, it kind of goes, that's your turn gone. Whereas in this game, if you want to swap something out or change your weapon, you just do it on the fly.
You can't take the monster and do it every other turn.
Yeah,
and it never uses your turn. It's just So
That's
you can
good.
swap.
Yeah, no,
When
it's
you get
so
the rock
good.
paper scissors thing, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I need a monster here that is speed because he's technical. Just swap them, and it's not like, sorry, mate, that's your turn.
Oh, that's that mechanic.
And that is so annoying,
exactly.
and it does the same with weapons. It does the same with weapons.
So let's be really clear. So there's like a rock paper scissors thing where every monster has a key trait, whether it's power, technical, or speed, and
which changes based on how the fight goes.
Yeah, and so you'll get a monster that might be power generally, and then it gets pissed off and does more technical attacks
or whatever,
or whatever. So you can switch monsters in to kind of be the rock to the scissors, if you know what I mean, on the fly. But like Adam says, there's also 3 different weapon types, which are
well, there's 6
there's
officially.
6. So
there's
3
6 weapons,
types,
but there's 3 types. So like you've got sword and shield.
You've got slash, blunt, and piercing weapon types. So you've got the big sword and the sword and shield from Monster Hunter, which is slash. You've got the axe and the hunting horn, which is your big blunt weapons.
Yep.
And then you've got bow and arrow.
And you should say
and
how
the gun lance.
But you should say also
the piercing ones.
The blunt, for example. You know, what's the? Is it? Oh Christ! You'll know this. The monster that picks up a stone. You get it quite early on.
Kuliyaku.
Yeah, Kuliyaku. So you might be fighting him with a sword, and it's no problem. Then he burrows, he picks up a rock. So you have to switch to your blunt weapon to smash the rock in the same way you would in any Monster Hunter game.
Yeah.
Right?
Because
the battle changes. You need to suddenly be using that.
Yeah, different weapons not only do better damage against certain enemies, but then in certain situations that changes. So to Adam's point, when he brings up a rock, you've got to smash it with a blunt weapon to do more damage. You can still hit it with a sword, but it does less damage. Or there's other enemies like in Monster Hunter where you can damage their parts. So you can direct your damage to different parts of the monster in your turn, and different parts of the monster are susceptible to different types of damage. So it might be on a monster's head, a sword or a sword and shield is better, but on its tail, a piercing weapon might be better. And so when you do damage in a fight, the game basically records previous attacks. So it will tell you, you've done a piercing attack and that was crap. So don't forget to not do that. It
comes up with a little line across it saying, don't use the piercing attack on that part of the monster.
Yeah,
because it's not weak to it.
So there is certain the power technical speed thing that you kind of have to remember from certain monsters. It doesn't keep reminding you of that until it does an attack. It says you're going to get hit by a power attack now. But the weapon ones, it does keep a log of every time you attack, so you don't have to remember all the different combinations of everything that you've done before. It will keep a tally of that and show you, you were about to hit it with this, and that was weak, so you might want to consider changing it. So that's really good. And you, like I say, changing weapons or monsters in a fight, you don't lose a turn. So it's quite respectful of you wanting to get on the front foot. But like the other thing that I really liked, and it sounds stupid, but you can speed fights up. Right, you can either speed up the animations of fights. So if you're facing a monster that you faced a few times before, you want to keep going through all of the attacks at normal speed. You can speed the fight up to 3 times the normal speed. And there's even an option if you accidentally come across some really weak monsters, you can literally instant win the fight and just get on with it and just move on to the next.
That's amazing, by the way.
That
is such an amazing thing to have in a game, because
it acknowledges that sometimes you're just too strong for what you've run into, because it's an open world, a bit like Pokemon, but they're all visible on the open field, so you know what you're running into.
You can hunt monsters, but you can avoid them.
Yeah, but you still get chased sometimes if monsters spot you, they might come after you. So sometimes you will be in fights, you're like, I can't be asked, or sometimes you're like, do you know what, I'm farming this monster, but I can get it over with really quickly. So it does. It gives you the options, and I think that's good because it just respects your time. Because this is a big game.
It's a big old game. Yeah, it's a proper.
When you say
it's a JRPG, it's a JRPG.
Yeah, there's lots to it. So you can either choose to speed that long story into a slightly shorter one, or go, see it all the way through. But I like the fact that it's got some options to speed through when you want to and slow down when you want to. It's very, very, very good. I'll pause there because you've probably got about a million questions before we get on to
before you do, I want to go back to a point you made, because you mentioned about how like the boss battles and I slightly disagree, but I will concede you play more of them, so maybe I'm not saying you don't know what you're talking about, because that's not true. the further you get, some of the like, I'm not going to say the name of the monster here because I don't want to do any spoilers. But there is a fairly well-known monster in this game called begins with D. Have you fought that monster at all?
I've fought one, but it's not well known. So I'm thinking I know which one you think of. I'm thinking
it's
of
a short monster name.
No, I know which one.
So that was one of the first battles where it's like, oh my god, this is like a monster hunter battle. Like it does things where it's like, I don't know how to counter this. This thing's killing me, and that probably again gives away.
I think I know the thing that you're talking about as well. So I'm pretty certain
we've discussed that the mechanic, and that sort of stuff, by the way, keeps being introduced because in Monster Hunter, monsters matter. They have
and
things.
I will say the good thing about that is because there is things like that do get introduced as you go. And that's really good because if I'm honest, the nature of a rock paper scissor, even with 3 different weapon types and different monster parts and stuff like that, that's very deep to a point before you start going. Once I figured out,
it changes.
Once I figured out your type and I figured out what weapons are cheap, I can pretty much cane you no matter what.
No, there's battles that change.
No, so the fact that they do grow, and they do from the start because.
Yeah, but I don't want to spoil it. Like, I don't want to spoil it for the audience or you. But there's stuff that happens a bit further. You're not far. You're not far off. But it's like, okay.
I've been too busy writing lovely guides.
Yes, I know. Not to complain.
Not to complain. I'm really enjoying what I'm playing. But I think people that go into it thinking it is going to be what they expect Monster Hunter to be need to know that it's not. But I also think they maybe need to not write it off, maybe like I did in my head before I started playing, because whilst
I think it's better. Just going to say it right now.
I know you do.
I think it's the best Monster Hunter game they've ever made.
I think I still prefer going up in the old school type big monster fights, but I've really enjoyed playing this game.
What I would say that I think this game does. Like, it's funny, by the way, the footage people are seeing is me literally fighting a Ladroth, and
you could have then.
I could have, I could have done it. Used a paintball on it and put it in a den and gone and taken its eggs. But instead I just took its parts. Anyway, something I think this game does particularly well, and if you'll watch the footage as we've been talking, there's a part where one of my monsties, which is your Pokemon version of the monster, was an Azeroth, right? Now, the reason that rung a bell to me is that, like, I used that Azeroth, and I can't remember the name of it. Bulldrome, which is like, Timon and Pumbaa. It's Pumbaa, isn't it? And these are 2 enemies, right? 2 monsters, the Bulldrome and the Azeroth, that in Monster Hunter Rise, after an hour or 2, it's just like, fucking, they don't exist because they are nothing, especially the Bulldrome, right? It's just a nothing thing. Like, I think Bulldromes you can literally kill in 2 hits from the start of the game, can't you? Rise.
Pretty much.
What I think this game does is it makes every single monster, even the ones you never even... you don't even think of a Bulldrome as a monster, I don't think. No. I don't even think that when you're playing Rise or World, you think of that level of monster. It's the equivalent of like a wretch in Gears of War. Like, you just hit them and they're gone.
The only time you ever care about them is those early missions where you're like, go and kill 10 of these.
Yeah,
so
when you kind of have to. Whereas in this
exactly.
game, every single monster matters. Like, every single one of them. Like, I still have some... I'm not going to start naming too many monsters, because I think one of the cooler things in this game is when you do get an egg and it hatches and you're like, oh my god, it was a rare one, I know, but it was... like, we had conversations, Chris, Mick and I, about, like, there's a monster you fight, and you fight this in every Monster Hunter game, but it's quite a big deal, this monster. And you're like, surely, will they let me have one of them? I can ride one of them? They probably wouldn't, because they do. They do. And when I first
relatively early on as well.
Yeah, you can get them pretty early. It's not even a big deal. And when I hatched one of them, I was like, oh my god.
I will say that. I think people that have played Monster Hunter games before,
yes,
and so therefore know some of the monsters or lots of the monsters, because there's a lot here.
There's a lot.
There's so much geeking out when you go to a new area.
Yes,
there's
just
like
open
different
world
areas. Because I remember saying to you, Adam, when I first played the first area, obviously it's a few of the same monster over and over again, and I was like, oh, this is getting a bit samey. I went to the second area, and
it's like a whole new ecosystem,
completely new monsters. I was like, oh my god, there's that. Oh my god, I've just seen that.
And then it does it
God,
again,
and then again, and again,
and just every new area.
And it's weird because you think it's like you forget what monsters exist in this world, and then you see them, you have a bit of a freak out. Like, I was seeing ones back from like 4 Ultimate that haven't been talked about since, and I'm like, I remember fighting this for the first time on the Wii U, and like brings back all those cool little memories. And obviously the fighting is different, but they're there and they're faithfully remembered. And
but they put care into them as well, because like when you're in the, I mean, we could spend 3 hours and never not touch the surface of this game. There's that much. And I appreciate not everyone listening.
As well.
Okay, I just one thing I want to mention before I forget. When you're in the combat, you control you, and you can control your monstie. Like if you've brought in, say, like a technical monstie, and all of a sudden he's doing power attacks, you're going to get slotted, mate. You can, if you've got a kinship meter build up, which you just get it as you play, basically. I won't even describe how. As you can actually tell them, no, you do the technical attack, please. If your kinship bar's not full, tough, they're just an idiot. But by doing all of this, you build your kinship up to a level 1, which is like a little bubble. I don't know if I'll have any footage I could just literally put on screen. I'll keep looking back and forth to see if we do. And basically, when you fill it up, you can ride your monster. Now, riding your monster is a tactical thing. It's one that, yes, you can do attacks with you on the back, and you can do a kinship skill. But you also heal up. So rather than using items or the hunting horn skills to heal up, or hoping that your allies, if you've got them, will heal you up, you just climb on your monster and heal up. And if you're facing a monster that you're confident at, you know he's going to do a speed attack and you're technical, keep doing it. And you keep doing it, and then you win this head-to-head battle, and you build your kinship bar up. Now, when you do your actual kinship skill, this is like a summon in Final Fantasy. It's not actually that, but it's kind of like that. It's it cuts away to a cutscene of you and your monster riding and doing this kinship skill. If you're watching the screen now, it's the blue bubble above the 3 hearts. You have one, your allies have one. Every single one of these monsters has had this own bespoke animation made for it. So when I'm talking about the Azeroth and the Bulldrome, they've got their own kinship skill. Like, I'm just trying to think of, like, the Azeroth uses honey sort of thing, he jumps in the air and catches a fish and then attacks him because he's a bear. And then it's all got their own one. Yeah,
and it's not just they've all been animated individually. There are some that will target one person. There's some one monster. There's some that will target the whole every monster that you're fighting against. So there's also a tactical element to the kinship skills, which is crazy.
I try and hold off for mine because I want to break the parts. Where I'm at, I want to break as many parts as I can so that I get the parts when I finish that battle, and I can go and make new armor or upgrade my armor. Because all that's in here, by the way. Like, if you want to make, well, we've said one of the monsters, we've said an Azeroth. If you want to make a sword or armor based on him, you need his parts, and then to upgrade it, you need his parts and something else.
It's simplified in the sense that the way they do it is there's like 3 different, because there's so many monsters.
Yes.
There's like 3 different parts to each monster.
Yeah, they've got points per part,
and they've got points in terms of their rarity. So you might have an arse, a face, and an elbow, and the arse is worth 1 point. Yeah. The face is worth 2, and an elbow is worth 10 or something. And basically, to upgrade this armor, you might need 12 points from this. 12 from items, and you can mix and match to get to that. So one 10 and 2 1s would get you 12, or 12 1s, depending on what you've accrued.
But it kind of cons you, because you go and do that, and then later on in the game, you might have like a completely different monster, and I've beat. Usually it's similar to the main games, like you beat one that you see for the first time, and then its armor's available to you because you've got the parts that But then later on, you think you get attached to a weapon. It's sort of mid-game, and you want to upgrade it, and then it needs the parts from the original enemy, like, let's say, the Bulldrome, but it also needs parts from something that's kind of rare to get it all the way to the maximum level, and you're like, I just used those rare parts to make the gear for that, so now I've got to go and grind. And then, by the way, it gets further than that, where you don't, there's no point being attached to a weapon, because you will need that weapon and that armor to take on that monster, just like you would in...
and it does, I think it does well, because it kind of gatekeeps how strong you can get weapons on, because it goes, you can upgrade that to level 2, but if you want to go to level 3, you need this rare mineral that you won't get yet. You
might not even know what it is yet. It might have a question mark, and it's like you don't even know what it is.
A bit like it does in other Monster Hunter games. It goes, you need that thing from that area which you haven't unlocked yet, so you're going to have to wait until you get to areas. So it does that quite well. It's not just you can just max out your armors and weapons and you're on easy street. I feel
you can, but then you'll almost straight away get like a new monster or 2 or 3, and you're like, this weapon that I maxed out is now shit.
Yeah, exactly. So you spend time grinding and then go, that wasn't as worth it as maybe it is. Yeah. And again, it's a lighter version, but some armor sets and weapons have like skills and stuff like you have in like a normal Monster Hunter game, whereas you might have like maybe 3 or 4 skills active. You only have 1, but you could say I want to wear the armor set, 1 because it's got good stats, but also because it's got a good skill on it.
I got attached to one of the hunting horns early on because it had 4 debuffs and buffs, one of which was like negate sleep, negate poison, all of these things, and it's like I could not, and I actually still have not been able to upgrade that because the thing I need to upgrade it, I haven't discovered. No, I have discovered it's a monster I've only ever seen once, and I used the parts to make the weapon. But like, I need to at some point find where that monster is because I really want to upgrade this hunting horn. I've actually now changed to a different one that's got different skills, but I really want to go back to this one because it has all these like, if you encounter a monster like is puts you to sleep, you can just, the first thing I do is switch to me horn, get that monster I know because I want him to do that, and then I'm going to quickly cast negate sleep, and you've got no chance, son. It's the tactical element without it being rapid. And you can do it at your pace.
And they've kept the item. I will let you speak in a minute, man, Carroll, because I'm sure you've got about 8
I was just going to say,
But like the one thing about the items, which I think is really clever, is they've adapted what they do a little bit to the turn-based thing. So there's like whereas before in like Monster Hunter you might have the antidote herb and the antidote is better than the antidote herb. It's the same in this one, whereas that like an antidote on herb on its own will just cure poison, whereas the antidote the full proper antidote now cures the poison and makes you immune to it for 3 turns. So if you're up against a poison enemy, that's really useful. So it kind of has just kind of flexed what those items are for and how they work. So there's more strategy to when you use them. But I will let you ask questions.
Carroll, sorry, man. I think it's testament though, man, to how excited.
What's quite funny about this is there's a part of this game that I would be very interested in hearing about, and that is its story. Right. And does its story actually like deliver something worthy for many JRPG fans out there, even if it's not a Monster Hunter fan base as such?
So what I'm going to say is we don't want to spoil it though. Just before anyone says anything else, I'm just going to say yes. I think the story gets better and better and better, and it's also something. It develops the characters in a way that, like, someone you'll meet very early, who you instantly probably dislike, it changed. I mean, halfway mark of the game ish, I felt my opinion on that person changed quite dramatically, and I kind of felt like I'm not sure this game. I wouldn't expect that. Like, everything else is so mechanically heavy, so deep. I didn't expect the story to get me, and yet it's one of those it built emotion up in me. It was like, how don't you do that to my people, my friends? How dare it was that, and that's like I didn't expect. That's something I didn't expect at all.
Well, it's good to hear that because it is one of those things that you kind of feel like they could just pass off a really kind of standard average story.
There's long cutscenes in this. Some of them are fairly substantial. That again surprised me because it's like blimey.
I think the main story bits are really good. There is padding. There is now this has happened, and I need you to go and beat this monster. You're like, okay, that's just.
I've done that. Now go do that one. Okay, I've done that. No, one more.
Yeah, and then I'll tell you what's really going on. But the bits when you get to the main meat and potatoes, and I've said that a couple of times now, but like when you get to that, they are
hungry,
good.
mate. You're just hungry.
Yeah, I just want some meat and potatoes. Full transparency. There are those very like contrived quest lines, which is basically just go and kill this monster or capture this monster, but the actual main story arcs of how you progress and you move around the world and stuff. That stuff is quite gripping. I'm not as far ahead as Adam, but I guess
I'll also say
but that's good.
It's also the most unfortunate thing is the combat to me is the I haven't finished the game, but it's the best JRPG combat I've played since.
Careful, no.
Well, I probably can't think of one. I mean, Persona 5's great.
Persona.
But I'd prefer to play this game.
Octopath.
Do you know what? That's probably its closest. This is probably its closest because of the way you have to use the party and the elements and tactics and like the rock paper scissors. But I just think there's something about this game that feels truly special to me because this is the Monster Hunter I personally have wanted for a very long time, and it feels so ace to be like, I can't get enough of it. Like, I played this in a car park waiting for my wife while she was on training. I took my Switch with me. I don't play handheld, very rarely. I did. I was pissed off because it was sunny, and I was like, I can't see the screen. But the open world stuff, it's I love this game. I don't disagree with mixed score 9.5 at all. I totally do. It runs like ass. It really does.
This is the second question I had. I was like, why am I hearing it runs like poopy bum bum? Because like
it really does.
That's a humongous. But that's like
on Switch.
Mental
on Switch.
With all the praise that's been given here, and like, you're saying it runs like ass.
This is one of the things I would say, right? Like, I think if anyone who watches or listens to us regularly knows that I'm not someone who's really. I don't usually let games off technical hitches. Like, I don't. It's just not something I'm comfortable doing. I can totally see why someone would say this is not good enough. It bothered me at the start because, like, the second area's town is like, wow. Like, I see people have reported it 20 frames per second. I think it's low. I think lower. There's sections of this game that go lower on the Switch. It's the first game I've played where I was genuinely like, I really want a Switch Pro because.
Well, you're getting.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
We'll talk about that.
We're getting a different kind. Let's put it this way, right? I didn't play the PC version, and Chris can speak to that in 2 seconds. I do think, assuming the game continues the way it is for me, I do think this will be in my top 3 of the end of the year. I do think if I was playing it on PC and had played from PC from the start, and this is where Chris can tell me if it runs okay or not, I think I'd probably give it full marks. Because I do hear criticisms about it, like the monster dens where you can just go in and nick the eggs. They're kind of like, once you know what they are, you can do them pretty simply, you can avoid things, you know what to do. That's not a problem for me because that's kind of an extra thing. And I don't mind the fact that I know now I can just run into a den, run there, I know how to get the good eggs, I know what to do. I don't mind that at all. I can see why people would. But then also what I found myself doing is like the first area I was getting to grips with the game. The second area, I was like, I'm going to go and hunt monsters. And I was going in the rare dens and getting, like I sent Chris a picture of one of my rare monsters that we won't name here. And it was cool because I deliberately went to the rare dens and got one. Third area, I backed off that a little bit and just went back and did the story. Fourth area, I was like, let's get some more monsters and start, because you go to your stable and you're like, oh god, I've only got like 20 and there's 150 or whatever there is, I can't remember. And then fifth area, like the story, I think it starts to pick up a bit and you're like, I'll come back here at some point, now I can do this something. And I never felt put off by the technical issues, but it was a case of you'd go into certain areas and you'd see the frame rate and you would go, Jesus man, like this could.
And we've seen this a few times now on certain titles on the Switch. You know,
we've had like combat, by the way. I don't recall ever seeing any issues with the combat. It's only the open world stuff, which is a big part of the game. But
yeah.
I mean, I've played on PC and it runs fine, right? I'm not experiencing the 20 frames per second in that village. Like when you said that, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, that second village where there's the waterfall in the middle. It's quite a small village.
The
frame rate there
village.
is horrendous. Like it is not acceptable.
So you don't get that on. You just don't get that on PC. When the guys are saying it, I was like, I'm not experiencing that at all. So obviously from that perspective, people are literally going Switch or PC, and you're bothered by performance. You have to go PC.
But also the portability of a game like this is. Because what we didn't mention, Chris, is the trials, the multiplayer. There's all these other elements that if you haven't got an hour to sit there and go, I'm going to do some story, you can go to the quest board, do some of the trials, which is just like one monster fight to get you some goodies and some XP. Yeah. And that portability means a lot to people. Yeah,
and I think this is where you need to kind of weigh up what is important to you, because I haven't experienced the performance issues, but I also know I kind of lean more towards what Adam says, that maybe the other way, that they bother me less generally. I can get involved in a story.
It isn't a frenetic high action. It's not Bayonetta. It's not even Monster Hunter Rise, which runs at 30, but
but like I think if the frame rate stops you from landing a hit or something, you'd be annoyed. But that doesn't happen because the combat is turn-based, and so it doesn't affect that. So I feel like yes, it annoys you, but would it detract from the? I don't think it would, but I've not experienced it, so I can't comment on it. But
it doesn't detract from the combat, but it definitely detracts. It takes a bit of the shine off of some of the, because it's quite a nice looking game. It's got a style to it. It's nice. It takes the shine off when
effective.
It's like,
I think it's a style. I think the art style would grow on me if I played it. I'm not so gone in it.
When I first saw the art style, I was like, oh. But actually, I adore it now. And I think when you start seeing all of the monsters that you know and love, again, done in that style as well, it's just enjoyable and nice to look at and done well. And like I say, when you see them in battles fighting, it's all done well. So I think it is difficult for me. I would say play the demo, and if the frame rate is annoying you on Switch, then maybe that's your decision made. Because I do get the handheld plus a lot. Like I obviously haven't got that option, and I kind of get that. Without, apart from boss battles, you probably can go and do a few monster hunts and fights and stuff in a few minutes on the loo, and that's a big plus point. I mean, I found myself spending 2 or 3 hour sessions on this game, didn't want it to stop, so I haven't been in that situation.
I spent a whole day.
Yeah,
cool.
You can easily, and it's interesting what Adam said, that I found myself going, I haven't done anything in this story. I've just been pissing about,
that's
catching
why I stopped
monsters or
doing
finding
it.
treasure chests in the overworld, or trying to find a specific monster that wasn't in my that I hadn't found yet.
Did you use your own images in our guides? This is a bit awkward because we can't show people yet, but some of the guide stuff, are they all your images?
Yes.
The one with the picture of all the eggs?
Yes.
Because you can get eggs and just keep getting eggs, and essentially they go back and there's like a pit. You look at your stables and there's just like a whole loads of eggs, right?
Yeah.
Chris has got this image in one of the guides for the eggs, right? And I was like, holy shit, he's got about 15 eggs there. The most I ever had was 5. So it was like, I can see why I'm further in the story. But that's also a beautiful thing, that you can do that, and I didn't have to.
Yeah.
But then that's also why you've got a swimmer, and I haven't. Because, by the way, we didn't even mention what that meant. Each monster in the field, out of combat, have their own skills. One can jump, and these are like open world skills. Like, there's vines you can climb. And certain monsters can climb the vines, and usually there's treasure up the top of them or rare stuff up there. Some can swim, some can do stealth, so you can just avoid all the fights. I've never used that one. Never used it.
Oh, well.
Because I use my bulldog when he's got dash, and I just leg it past the monsters. Yeah, but listen, I suspect this game will be talked about for a while. We've talked about it for 40 minutes nearly. And again, I feel
sorry
like
if you
so
want to give a Monster Hunter, because
it's the biggest game this week, isn't it? Before we move on, there is a question from Mr. Philip Tyndall, who says, if you were to recommend one RPG on Switch this month, which would it be? Sorry, would it be Monster Hunter Stories 2 or Zelda Skyward Sword? Now, that's a difficult one because Skyward Sword is a 10-year-old game. And I think Adam's played that through all the way. I haven't. Chris, did you play Skyward Sword back then?
I played Skyward Sword back then. It is the only 3D Zelda I have never finished. Mm-hmm. I got very far, but I dropped off it and never went back. So I don't want to upset Adam Carroll ahead of again. But for me, if I had to answer that question, I would say right now, personally, for me, I'm well up for playing more stories because it is a new game.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's also more of an RPG,
and it's more. Yeah,
that's true.
It's more of it's much more of an RPG.
Traditional RPG.
Traditional RPG, and I'm interested to see how I go with Skyward Sword HD because
Can't wait for the internet. Cannot wait for the internet.
I know. Yeah, I want to fall in love with it. I worry that I'll get annoyed by the thing. I didn't get annoyed. Annoyed sounds like I thought it was like a 3 out of 10 and it pissed me off. But I have such a high expectation of 3D Zelda games, and there were some things in that game that pissed me off.
Yeah.
And I want to love it because I feel like it is good and it has really good ideas in certain places. But
it's
other
amazing.
times,
I'm just going to quickly say very quickly on Skyward Sword that because it's coming very close to release day, and I am obviously insanely excited. I hope that all these people that are very like, oh, do you know, I didn't get out, like you're saying, Chris, and blah, blah, blah. I hope that when you do play it, and if it still doesn't click, that the world can just go, yeah, still not for me.
Not for
Don't
me.
really like that Zelda game. And I'm going, cool. But if people start coming in going, yeah, controls just shit, and this is shit, and that shit, I'm going to be like, oh.
I think there's a balance, isn't there, between saying this is for me one of my worst Zelda games, but therefore still an 8 or 9 out of 10.
But I was going to say, is it like the Game of Thrones thing where people used to say like a bad episode of Game of Thrones is still better than everything else on the telly?
Yeah, and I think that's the balance, isn't it? It's like it's yes, it's not. It doesn't make it a 3 out of 10, and I'm sure some people will think they're really clever by going, "This is a 4 out of 10 game," and when it comes out. But I don't agree with that. But I do think there are some decisions, certainly the original made, which I think, and they have corrected some of those from what I've read in terms of the quality of life.
I'm struggling
on the site.
Yeah,
he has that little Skyward Sword piece up of what he loves the game, and
I remember his love for that. It was kind of weird reading it because editing that and putting that piece up. The one thing that didn't click with me is that it's been 10 years. Because in my head, I've worked for God is a Geek for 10 years. I haven't, though. It's been longer. I remember the event. There's a picture. I couldn't fucking find it. We did go to a preview event. Probably the first one Sean went to, and probably one of the earlier ones for me at Nintendo. And it was when, imagine this, like Mario Kart was there. What was
Don't get started on that.
Kid Icarus. Do you remember the Kid Icarus 3D game? That was there. That was some hot period of time.
It was Uprising, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the one. It had the little stand and everything. You could buy with it. I've got that somewhere. And Zelda was there, and there was a picture where I was stood there holding a 3DS, and there was a picture, and it was like Mario. It was just a big cut. It was a Nintendo event. There was Mario there, and he was just there looking kind of mean and like that. And it was looking as he took the picture of me playing, he was like staring right at my ass. And I will try and find it. It is a bit strange that he took that photo, but it is
I did reread
and then he reviewed it, and it was
I did reread his review the other day, and it's
loved it.
Yeah, he adored it. Yeah,
and Sean's not the guy who would, if it's bad, is it bad? He will always. Christ, sometimes when he's reviewing a game, some of the texts I get, I'm like, oh my god, don't put that in the review. We'll never get spoken to ever again. So he can be brutal, but like he genuinely loves that game.
Yeah, I'm excited.
We'll see. Let's move on. Adam Carroll.
Yes.
What have you been up to?
I've been playing an old game.
How old?
Still 2
Not
years.
old by your retro Adam Carroll corner.
Yes. No, I've been playing Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, or Sekiro, whatever way people want to call it.
Second question, why?
I've been doing it because it's been sitting on my shelf, whispering at me, going, play me.
You never finished me, Adam.
Never finished me.
So to be clear, you played this before and then fell off, or you'd never played it?
So I got to the part where it's Genichiro. Is that
we got to the same part, right? The fight.
Second time you fight him.
Yeah, top of the castle.
Up the roof.
Yeah, up at the roof.
It is it's a really, really banging fight. It really is. It's super cool for the game and everything.
Breaks you some. It broke me. I never
it
went
broke
back.
me really bad, and like I got to a part where I just went, I can't believe you've done this. I just can't believe this has happened to me, and I died. And the level of
you just don't go back,
disappointment that hit me was so awful, and I was like, get out of my life. Just
Same
get
thing
out of my life. No, the thing about it was that game, as I played it first time round, my experience leading up to that one fight was, it was difficult, it was hard. Obviously, I was still trying to figure out how to get the flow down, the parrying. It wasn't fully clicking. It really wasn't, right? But there it was, and it was sitting there, and I was like, oh, I really want to play it, because I've been playing Demon's Souls, obviously, before that, about a few weeks ago. So I was kind of in that From Software mode. Threw on Sekiro. I goes, here we go. And I said, oh, shit. I realized that I need to import my save file over from my PS4. So I was like, cool, get that out. PS4, boom, boom, here we go, grind. Save file corrupted.
Oh.
And honestly, it couldn't have happened to any other game. Sekiro. Sekiro is the one where the save file, I could not get it back. So I was sitting there just going, I cannot believe I'm going to have to go through this again if I want to start it, right? Just simply couldn't believe it. So I sat there for half an hour and I went, this is going to happen. This is going to have to happen. Threw on the game, started from the very beginning. I'm going to say straight out right now that it's probably my favorite From Software game. Sekiro has clicked with me so much right now. It's insane. Now I've reached the same fight. I've got there, did it once, got my ass handed to me. I was like, all right, I'll come back to you, sir. I'll come back to you. I'm going to go away and do other things for a while. Mm-hmm. So I went off and started doing the rest of the areas, tried to get through other parts that I never got through before. I am absolutely bossing it at the moment. I don't know if it just feels that way or the way sometimes this happens with these kind of games where you're like, I'm just on fire. I'm absolutely demolishing everyone. I got to Lady Butterfly. On my first time of playing Sekiro, I never got to Lady Butterfly. I never just reached her. Right. So I heard all the stuff about her, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, here she is now, whatever, grand, right? Bang, dead straight away. Second time around, dead straight away. I was like, oh, this is going to be this all over again, isn't it? Third time around, beat her. And I couldn't believe how good it felt. Like, it just did that whole thing, that whole From Software experience. Beat Lady Butterfly, and then I drove on and just, like, took on every other mini boss that I could find. Now, I've gotten through like 4 other main bosses, and then I've taken on a rake of mini bosses, and I'm building up like my life, my health bar, all that stuff. It's all coming together. Everything is working out great. It almost feels like I'm building up to that fight with him again, and it's like, it's gonna feel so good once I beat him.
Yeah,
once you beat him, yeah.
You will beat him. You will beat him.
I will.
You will. I will. It took me a long time, and I remember because me and Adam were at it about I think similar points. I seem to remember. I remember us talking about it a lot, and then you restarted it on PC. I think from memory.
Me, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. You. Sorry. Yeah,
I have a shameful admission.
I know your.
Did I admit this on the
pod?
pod
before?
before?
You into it.
Yeah, no, well, fine. You out me, mate. It's fine. I did it. I never finished it still.
So no. I mean, I know you replayed it on PC and turned the difficulty down, didn't you? And
no, I put cheat engine on so that it was one hit kills. Everything was one hit kill, and I got further, and then I didn't know where to go because I'd probably gone through it so quickly. It was like, shit, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. So still didn't finish it.
It's interesting what you said there, Adam Carroll, about feeling like a boss. I do feel like Sekiro more than any Dark Souls game, maybe Bloodborne, maybe just park Bloodborne in my thoughts for a moment because maybe that's the other one that does this really well, but Sekiro definitely, I felt once you get to a certain point in the game, and it is before the bastard fight on top of the castle, but also afterwards when you've done it, I feel like you feel more like a badass and in control of the situation and being able to take charge of those things. Because then I feel that way in Dark Souls games when I feel that way in Dark Souls now because I've played Dark Souls to death, and so I know how to become that person very easily because I know all of I know if I go there and pick up that weapon, I'll become overpowered or whatever, and so I know the ways to almost game the system in a game like that because I played it so much. But I felt like Sekiro, the way it's designed, is you learn the tricks, the parries, the whatever, and the things you have at your disposal. I forget all of them now. Throwing ash in people's face or whatever it is.
Shurikens.
The shurikens and stuff. The things that and the parries and stuff. And that getting those down, you feel badass, and that's what helps you get through
Jesus Christ,
it.
this guy on screen at the moment. I remember this area so well.
That was an interesting one. I remember actually
that does that
Adam,
lunge attack.
I remember that one. Adam Carroll, I think you did that one. I remember you coming on and going, I think you did it on like your second try, and I was like, you utter bastard. That one took me ages. You were like, I have just bossed this, and I'm like, I hate you so much.
What's hilarious is that exact moment there, right? When I got to it this time round again, I was like, all right, this fucking moment. No, all right, here we go. And first time, I was like, done. Yeah. And it was just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, I've never... And I was thinking, I was like, what is it that's making this game work? Because, like, I've played Bloodborne and stuff. I haven't finished it or anything like that, but I've played it and I've died and it's punishing and so the other Souls games, whatever. But, like, I think for me, it's the speed. It's the speed of Sekiro. It's the traversal, the grappling hook, the running. Like, I am just loving it right now. And I every time I'm beating it, like a mini boss or something, and getting a new prayer bead, I'm there and I'm like, what's happening? Like, this is never
would
happened to
love
me before.
someone to force me to play it again, right? It almost like I'll pay you, because the thing is, right? I found the thing that was difficult for me was that this is a game built around parrying. And I am, and this is not an excuse, but I am the oldest guy on. Well, I think Mick's actually slightly older than me, but me and him are both in our 40s, and I don't think I have the reaction speed to that anymore. I just don't think I do. Now that might be a cop out, and it probably is. But man, like you say, when you're playing it, you're like, oh. But it would be so difficult from the very start of that game. There's no kind of easing you in. Like the first time you encounter someone with like the ogre. Like when you first find an enemy, and he's not too bad actually. But there's another guy near in that area, like a samurai guy, just after him, and straight away it is like, it is just like it's you. It is so, and you can revive and all that, and it's like, nah, just kill you again, and eventually you get there. But it's not difficult. It isn't. No, it is literally about pressing parry at the correct time. And then you take away one of his health bars. And it's not hard, and yet somehow it's hard.
What I find, you're right, what I find really interesting, I remember us talking about at the time, Genichiro, I think how you pronounce it, the battle.
I think. I don't know.
I remember, because you were trying to do it, and I just done it like the night before or something. So we're very close in terms of time. And I was like, yeah, I've done it. And I remember saying to you, you know, what you need to do is you need to be really patient, and like you said, you know, because I spent so much time on that boss, kind of going, I know what that move is going to become now, because the triggers and stuff, and because I've died so much to it.
There he is, by the way, on screen. Patient. That's the guy, General Naomori Kamurada.
Yeah. But I remember saying to you, you know, I did it by being really patient, looking for the opening, and only striking when I knew I could get some damage done or whatever, building up the parry stuff. And I remember you going, "Oh, I've read other people go, you just need to absolutely rush in and
like really be
relentlessly batter him."
Super recommended on him.
And I was like, I find it really interesting that there's in this game, again, more than like some of the others, it's like there are different ways in which you can go about it. And maybe my way was less efficient, but I mean, it got me through it eventually. But I thought that was super interesting. You're like, no, everyone else is saying just go in hard and try and overwhelm. And I was
like, that's what I thought this had in common with Bloodborne, and those games that are, I think, built around being aggressive. Where the Souls games perhaps let you put a shield up and just strafe round them until they go.
Caution.
These two are more a case of, like, for example, in Bloodborne, technically there's a shield, but there isn't really a shield in that game. And it is about, you have to be aggressive, be on the front foot, because if you do get hit, you can hit them back by using your technique to get... And I don't know, I would like to download this again, play it with a smooth 60.
Oh, man, you should, because you'd be so surprised how the parry will just... You'd be like, oh, right, okay, because I just feel first time round learning a From Software game from scratch, playing it for the first time, it's very like everything just feels daunting, and that's what it's going to do. But like, what's so weird about Sekiro is like, it's not weird, but it's just like when I play Souls games or Bloodborne, and you get to a boss and you walk in, it's this ginormous thing. You're just like, oh god, and it just swings a huge hand at you or something. In Sekiro, it's always just like a guy the same size as you.
There are some bigger ones, but
there are some big ones, obviously, but not
mostly it's not.
For what I've got to so far,
there is definitely some bigger ones, but you are right. I think the other the thing for me, I remember because I never used to parry in Dark Souls.
No, that's the trouble. I never did,
and it was only around the point I was playing Dark Souls Remastered, I think, again, and it was even towards the end of my playthrough, and I was like, I suddenly just got parrying down, even those big chock-off Black Knights right at the end of the game. I was like, you're parried, see you later. And then I played Sekiro. And so I remember going into it, being more confident that I could parry, even though I cocked it up so many times at the start, because it's difficult to get down. But up until that point, every game I played from Software, I was like, well, parrying's out the window. That's just not for me. I need to find another way.
I know I did some, but in Bloodborne, I didn't even use the gun parry much.
Yeah, so same. So I think that helped me, because it meant that my mindset going into Sekiro is that, you know, it is possible to learn this, and that helped me. But I get because it's much harder if you just can't. Yes. So
I can. I just don't want to, and there's something that stops me. I definitely can, but I can't explain it.
Do you know what's totally up my street as well? Just the final thing I want to say is that, like, I love the way there's no stamina bar. Like, I love it so much. It just down to like it helps the
flow
when you get killed and you're like, oh, and you know you have to travel a bit or whatever. The fact you just press circle and just absolutely peg it and grapple, it all feels fun. Do you know what I mean? Like it's that little bit. At least it's fun to do this anyway. And I don't know. I'm just clicking with this game so much right now, and I'm just looking forward to playing so much more. But like, I got to some boss last night anyway, and it just demolished me straight away. And I was like, well, that's that session done tonight. Leave it at that.
Before we move on, Lost for Words says Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, or Sekiro I've died inside, and quite.
Also said the people who say, it's not that hard, or you know, it's the easiest from software game, because like it's hard.
It requires you to be like Zen. If you can be Zen, you could just like.
The amount of times I've had to like, the amount of times I've go in and just like hold on like guard and chill and wait to see what they're going to do first, and then go, all right, they're your moves, these are mine.
Exactly.
And everything. Love it, loving it so much right now.
Well, before we get on to listen to correspondence, this is, I guess, your 5-minute warning to send any questions in the live chat. Chris Hyde, what else have you been up to, mate? What else have you been playing?
So I have just been playing, other than Monster Hunter Stories 2, just the only other game I've been playing this week is a bit more of Risk of Rain 2. Now it's on console, and
it's been updated, hasn't it?
It's been updated, and I forgot how much I liked that game. Yeah, it's still an absolute bastard in like what it does in terms of its difficulty ramping up towards the end, but that game is so enjoyable when you get a mate or two like playing it online together. Just how frantic it can get, and how sorry, I'm going all over the place, but I've just got to step in straight away and go, that bloody music deserves some awards. That soundtrack when it gets going, and it's amazing how often you forget it because you're in the moment of shooting so many enemies on screen, and then all of a sudden there's a pause in the carnage, and you're just suddenly going, oh, that music is incredible. Like it's usually
the high notes.
In
the background. You're like, oh,
it's just so gorgeous, and you know, it on the face of it, it looks very basic. In terms of the ideas that it has, but the where it's the hidden depths that when you play it, no two kind of runs are the same because of the amount of variables. You know, you're not only the monsters and some of the random maps that you teleport to each time, but also like the different pickups mean that, you know, you get different buffs as you go, which means, well, now I'll play a little bit differently because I've got these buffs. You know, rounds where you get we've been getting double and triple and quadruple jumps.
Oh, man.
You're suddenly jumping around the place and shooting from the air and everything else, and you feel like, you know, a legend. Whereas other runs where you maybe don't pick those up, you're like, okay, I need to be clever about what I'm doing, or, you know, you've got different loadouts from different characters that you can choose as well, and that dramatically changes how you play. You might go, oh, do you know what, this round I'm going to play as the guy with the chock-off shotgun, which means I've got to get right up in everyone's ass to do spread damage really close. Or you go, actually, no, this round I'm going to play as the bow and arrow lady with the auto lock-on, so I can be a bit further back, but I'll do less damage, but I know I'm safer from enemy attacks. And it's such an easy pick up and play game, but the enjoyment makes it so cathartic to play, and it's playing with mates is so good.
I don't think it gets the credit, man. If I'm absolutely honest with you,
I've never played a run and gone, that was shit. I don't want to play that anymore.
We almost always fail, and yet you never go like, you know, you always like, oh yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah, exactly that. And you know, even if, you know, there was a time, I'm not gonna lie, we tried this new character and we all died on the first level because we were like, well, I don't quite know what I'm doing with that character. That's, you know, and we'll blame the character, not us, because, you know, we're great at games.
Yeah, but then we discovered what that character could do, and you won't give him up now.
No, and it's like, but you're straight back in. You're not like, oh, this game is crap, it's badly balanced or whatever. You're like, no, straight back in. We'll do it this time. It's so, and we're still discovering new stuff. Like, because there'll be stuff that, like, I remember the first time we played it loads on PC, and then we started playing it on PlayStation, and you're like, oh yeah, have you not seen this before? I'm like, no, this is completely new.
That's on the screen now. That is beautiful timing. The
Yeah.
shop that you can get to.
You were like, no, this is shop, and I'm like,
you started trying to shoot the shop vendor.
Yeah, I started shooting.
And
the
it
shop
scared
vendor
the shit out of me because damage numbers were appearing, and it's like, oh
Yeah,
god, what?
You're like, why are you killing it? I'm like, well, it's a massive thing
It's
on
a
the
big
screen.
beast that you looks
That's
like an enemy.
normally what
It's
I
not an
have to
enemy.
do. And so, yeah, and I know that there's loads of other things we haven't discovered because there's loads of the game has loads of challenges that it sets you, or basically mini achievements, and there's so many, and it gives you descriptions and go, oh, have you found this super secret
Look at that, 9 out of 10. Look at that
level
review.
or whatever. What's that? Sorry.
So I was just showing I was putting the video review on screen, and there was a big 9 out of 10 there.
Yeah, no, it's so it looks like it should be basic and repetitive and boring, and it is the opposite of all of those things. And when anyone ever says Adam said to me, "Oh, should we just play from Risk of Rain?" Yeah. Not even going to question whether I should spend my time doing that, because I know that during and after I'll have had a great time. It's such a good game, and I think really underappreciated.
Really underappreciated.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is because the name's dreadful. And it's a sequel to a game that people are like, I think it was only PC, in fact, Risk of Rain 1. I think it was only on PC as well, so that narrowed the field. And it's it's a bad name. I think we probably said this when we talked about the PC version. It's a bad name, but look past the name. It looks great, runs great, feels superb, has kind of got a character for everyone. Mm-hmm. Like there's melee, there's shooting, there's auto-aiming, there's shotgunning, there's all sorts of characters for everyone, and there's loads to unlock. It's a proper value proposition, and I've nothing else to add. I think the game's wonderful and hugely underrated and underappreciated. Not underrated because it does well critically, but in terms of appreciation,
more people should play it. I think is more
big time. But before we get to listener correspondence, then Lost for Words says, From Software games are not for me, just can't get good, though this conversation has made me want to try again. Don't know if I can afford to keep buying new controllers, though. don't play it on Switch, because then you'll need a new console. And Phil Tyndall says, love watching Sekiro being played, but I just can't get to grips, and the lack of an AI or even use a phantom to help with difficult areas made me quit. I finished Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1 and 3. Yeah, they someone modded multiplayer into it on PC, I think.
It's just in there now, so you can get there's just little phantom things everywhere, and you can just I can't remember exactly what they're called, but you just press up in the D-pad and it shows a little shadow version of some other player doing the stuff.
You can't play with them though, can you?
Yeah, it's not multiplayer.
Oh no. Sorry, you can't. If that's
that's. I mean, I get it. It is very much feels like a single player story game, but then I suppose so does Dark Souls and Bloodborne, I guess. Really? Yeah. I don't know. Well, if you've got any live conversational questions, that's a weird way of saying it, now's the time to do so, because we've got one here from G-Town Steve in our Discord, and we were going to talk about this as a news thing anyway, so this seems like a good time to do it. It says, with the recent Nintendo Switch OLED edition being announced, who's buying it? And what is the general consensus towards the new machine? Is it everything you hoped for? Love you, bye.
Now, I know the answer for Adam Carroll, so I'd quite like him to go first on this.
I love it. I pre-ordered 7. Can't wait. No, I actually have pre-ordered it.
Yeah.
I've gone in for it because I do play handheld quite a bit. I think that's where it benefits the most. This console. And there is the whole just Nintendo doing that thing, and I just can't say no to it, and that's just that. But it looks really nice. I love the off-white kind of white dock, but that's not to say that's not the reason for anyone to buy these things. I know people are kind of going, oh shit, whatever, standard stuff. Just don't fucking buy it. No one's getting you to buy it. If you want to hang on for a Switch Pro, off with you. I'm sick to death of those rumors anyway at this stage, and
it's coming.
The way I see it
is coming.
The way I see it, yeah. Joy-Cons these days are $85, $90 and stuff, and my Joy-Cons are on the way out. That's not a reason to go and buy a new Switch, obviously.
But no, I get you. Because I
know what I mean. I'm just a bit
like Link's Skyward Sword ones.
Are you almost justifying it to yourself? But it's also some new Joy-Cons as well, which is saving £70. So I've got it cheaper. Yeah, no, I get it.
It has all the stuff that when we got the Switch day one, the original model, and you held it in, and if someone turned to me and goes, what do you think the Switch will be like now in 3 years, 4 years time? Immediately by looking, I went, well, the kickstand is going to be definitely changed, because that's shit. And they've done that now, and that should have been day one anyway.
Yeah.
And the screen handheld, it isn't ideal. It isn't amazing. It does drown out a lot of the colors and stuff, and it is what it is. There we have this new one now, and it doesn't really offer much. I think like the 64 gig internal storage.
They doubled the storage,
doubled
better audio.
that,
Like definitely welcoming that as well. But overall, it's not an essential. The price
It's
is
a
ramped
revision.
up.
It's a hard.
It's a revision, yeah. And the price, I think, a lot of people right now are just like, nah, not for me. That's fine. But I think when people actually, I was saying this to you, when people see it and maybe kind of look at the
look great. Like OLEDs look
and
great.
they're going to look at their own Switch and be like, oh, I do kind of want that now.
It's £10 more, isn't it? Right, £3.10.
Something like that. Yeah.
And what's the Switch retail for right now? Is it still $299? I mean, you can get them a lot cheaper, like Switch Lites and stuff. But
yeah, I think it's $299.
So it's £10 more for an OLED, which is actually, I mean, if you'd not got, if somehow you don't have a Switch, right?
I mean, I'd pay £10 more for that stand.
Same.
By a mile.
But
that stand is probably the best feature for me.
How come they haven't done the 3DS thing of releasing all these different colours, but of the stand? Just the stand. Have it so that, I mean, I can't quite, I've got one there for capture, but like have it so that it's like got LEDs in it, like a limited edition one where it glows and shit, and like.
Do you know? Can I just say something there for a second, actually, because it just came into my head. Right? Is that like? Do you know when Nintendo announced, like, say, an Animal Crossing Switch, which they did, and all that jazz? I find it hilarious that they just get a really grand pass. Like, I'm not knocking anyone to buy
everyone
those
does
things.
it. Sony used to do it.
People who have a Switch will be like, definitely getting that, just because it just has like a different skin. But then as soon as like something like this,
what you're talking about.
Yeah, but do you know what I mean?
Those colour Joy-Cons were nice, though, weren't they, as well?
Listen, they were all really nice.
That Switch.
Yeah. It was all really nice. Did Monster Hunter release a Switch?
Yeah, I got the Mario Red and Blue one now, which again...
Yeah, there you go. And all those things happen, and people are like, yeah, cool, whatever, I'll buy it. And a lot of people buy it, and they're delighted with life. Then this is kind of like, well, this is a better screen. It does have some sort of technical improvement. Yeah. I think the Switch Pro talk, if that stuff didn't exist, people would be like, all right.
It's because this isn't what people wanted.
It's the classic Nintendo hype up here, delivered down here, but still not right. You know,
I don't think that's fair. I think it's the gamer thing of, I want this thing that no one's ever claimed. No one ever actually told me it existed.
I mean the gamer's hype of Nintendo, not Nintendo saying we're going to give it. It's the people's expectations for every direct ever under the sun are always up here. And then it comes in here, and you know that's still really high. It's just not where everyone's expectations were. Because most of what was being rumored / leaked for the Switch Pro was pretty much what we got, apart from the 4K stuff, right?
Let me just be very clear about it.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild 2 is not out this year.
Or
whatever they call it.
The Switch Pro is coming out with Breath of the Wild 2.
Of course it is. And there'll be a new Mario game as well, I would suspect.
Mario Kart 9.
No, I don't think that.
I don't really know.
3D one.
Like, do you know now with the Switch Pro stuff, right? All we do here is like people, there's no 4K. What else personally would you guys like to see the Switch Pro provide?
I would like Bluetooth.
Would you like better Joy-Cons?
Yes, I would like them to improve the Joy-Con drift. I would like better Bluetooth heads. I would like Bluetooth headset support so I could like pair my AirPods with it. Because I think, you know, I want a solution similar to how you can plug a headset into a PlayStation or Xbox controller and party chat with my friends. Yes. I don't want to have to buy a specific headset that can integrate Bluetooth and that, so I have to go via Discord on my phone, and if I want to play... And I don't want to use a third-party app. That's the easier version. I don't want to use a third-party app to communicate with my friends in a multiplayer game.
But there's that, right? Then you want better Joy-Cons, the 4K thing.
I'm not fussed about 4K. I want more. I want a better frame rate. I want more power. Generally, I don't care. I don't need a 4K Switch. I want a 1080p 60 frames per second Switch. I don't need a 4K Switch. I'd like to think if they go that way, they go the full hog. But I don't. I just want. I want
better
60
battery
frames
life.
per second. Yeah, but like 9 hours in it now. I mean, that's
mine is not 9 hours. No way.
The newer one I've got is a lot better. The old one was like an hour and a half by the end. It got a lot of use. It was a review unit. You know, I've had it since not day one, pre-day one. But yeah, I battery life is the thing. There's definitely still improvements to be made, but like I don't get the anger about this.
Do you think that's all going to come next year? Like, Do you genuinely
No, I
think
don't think
that
all of
Switch
it
Pro...
will. No, I think there will be a more powerful Switch released.
They won't fix the online chat stuff.
No.
That's pipe dream
they
stuff.
don't want you having fun that way.
But for me, if they nailed that, I'd be buying like whatever they called it. Like because for me that's so fundamental to playing with people online, and that would be a bigger thing for me than a 4K Switch. And that's just how passionate I am about that particular aspect of it.
Let's not let people off the hook here. It's not for you. It is for everyone. It is a fundamental online experience aspect that you should be able to communicate via voice within the game you are playing. It is not some alien concept that, oh, wow, have you played the new Call of Duty? They've got it so you can talk to your colleagues that you're playing with. No, it is a core fundamental part of a system that should be in place. I like the fact that there's bugger all media capabilities. Well, there is now, but at the start, I loved the fact that with the Switch that there was just nothing to do on it apart from play games. I am there for that. There are, TVs come with all that stuff now. You don't need a console to do that. It's cool when they do, but I don't need it. I want a more powerful Switch, and Monster Hunter Stories 2 was the first time I ever felt like I needed one. I
felt I needed a new. No, I didn't feel like I needed a new Switch straight away. But like when I played Breath of the Wild, which was like a launch game, when you go into the forest, it chugged. It was
Pokemon. The new Pokemon does.
Yeah, like it was showing. Saw the Link's Awakening. These things happen, and I just feel like, that was happening from day one, and that's it. Because games and just stuff is just more powerful now, and I just feel like to get that level of power in a handheld console, it's going to cost a fortune for us to buy. Like I feel like if the Switch Pro is to provide what people are wanting, we're talking $500. We're going into PlayStation 5 territory and stuff.
$399.
$499. Yeah,
Breath of the Wild 2.
Do you think that the argument is just going to be passed on? $499 for a handheld console. Pfft, that's just what's going to happen. Everyone's going to kick stink over it.
But man,
everyone, but
you say that.
I think everyone
online will. Yeah, well, that's it.
I think everyone online will moan about it, and then it'll be the biggest selling Nintendo console. It's stupid. Let's not.
The more power, the more expensive. That's just straight up what's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I've not pre-ordered one. I'm fighting it because I really like playing Nintendo systems, like because there's no. I'm almost the anti-modern, if you like, in that respect. Is that I don't want things popping up all the time when I'm playing a game. I'm happy to just have played Monster Hunter Stories 2 for 30 hours and no notification popped up and told me this. I just played a video game. Like I went out of the house and played it in a car where I had no internet connection, and it wasn't like, oh my god, I can't be connected. It was like, that's kind of cool,
I feel there's a lot of Switch fans. I don't, but like a lot of people have more than one Switch now. That just seems to be a thing. And
let's do a thing. How many have you got? Ads?
I've one.
Switches. Okay.
I've one Switch.
I've got one.
Never mind.
How many do you have?
No. We've all got one.
Yeah.
No, what do you have? Say it now.
How many Switches are in your house? Your household.
Is this room considered my household?
Okay. No. In your household,
actually,
including that room you're in.
There's not one in here, actually.
3.
Yeah.
You
2
bitch.
Switches and a Switch Lite, and I bought my mum a Switch Lite for her birthday. So
yeah. So here's the thing:
when I replace mine, if I have to, I'll go to the OLED one. Assuming there's not a Switch Pro out,
Can I just clear this up a little bit? I reviewed the Switch Lite and the Switch, so I've paid for one console. Right, and that's not me like going, oh, I didn't have to pay. It's I haven't bought 3 Switches. Just to be clear, like the launch Switch that I reviewed was just fucked, and it was like I couldn't cope with like the less than 90-minute battery life anymore. I couldn't cope with the bloody Joy-Cons. Like, just I had to, and it was just like I need a new Switch, so I bought a Switch.
I'm treating this purchase of the Switch, like for people who have more than one, I don't think you need to get this. But for me,
that's why I haven't pre-ordered, man. Because who needs 4 Switches?
But I'm in my head going, I'm treating this like, I don't know, like a new phone or a new car.
Oh man, if you treat it like that, then it's nothing.
The old one works perfect. The one I have is fine.
There's nothing bad. The left Joy-Con. That's fine. You just want to upgrade to your new phone. And you know what, man? You should be able to do that without anyone giving you shit.
I'm gonna have it, and I'm gonna have a great time. Playing my Metroid Dread.
Oh, give me that game.
It's going to look good in that.
Give me that game. That's going to look crisp. Before we finish up, a couple of comments to read out here. Phil Tyndall says €365 for the Switch OLED makes me wonder what the heck the price of a Switch Pro would retail at. It's only 35 less than a PS5 digital. There.
That is bananas.
But despite its price, I've pre-ordered and will trade in my Animal Crossing edition.
Come on, Phil.
Don't really get rid of that. Lost for words for me. There has to be a real upgrade aspect to buying something new. New iterative changes aren't enough. That's totally fair. And Phil again says, I really wanted an upgraded hardware Switch, but can't see the Pro model launching until Breath of the Wild 2, which will likely be summer or fall 2022. Yeah, I think that's the case. And I think it will be more than just a Switch Pro at that point. It might be the next generation of Nintendo, and Breath of the Wild, like it was a Wii U and Switch game, will be a Switch and a Switch 2 or whatever.
A Super Nintendo Switch.
Nah, they're not going to do that.
If Nintendo offered me like the choice of having like the hardware improvements or like the actual like interface stuff improvements, like a better eShop, I'd pick that. I'd pick that easy because
I tell you what, right?
I want to put wallpapers on my Switch.
If they gave me online chat functionality and a virtual console with that I'd buy over 1080p 60
over 4K.
Per second. Yeah, over 4K. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, you'd pick.
I don't want much in life. but just want to say as well, because we've skipped over Deadbeat Punk's comments, just saying standard's worth the price of entry. Such girth, and I agree.
It doesn't work. That thing, the original, does not work.
It's a flimsy. I like the fact that not only is it girthy, but the fact that you can have it at the different angles. I think is just so much better than what that is.
That trailer made me laugh. Though, where it just goes wide.
That was an expensive trailer. That was well done. That was a lot of money went to that trailer. I respect that, and I respect you two for being here on this podcast. It's been a joy. We've discussed a lot of things, and Deadbeat Punk Virtual Console would make me jump on. Like, give us the N64 games, give us the GameCube. You can buy those games on Wii U. Whatever. We're not going to solve the Nintendo issue here, and we're all going to be playing Zelda, I expect. So, hypocrites. Thank you very much for those in the live chat. Thank you very much to Phil Tyndall for the €5 super chat there.
Thank you, Phil.
Much appreciated, Phil. Always love it. Thank you so much. And if you do enjoy our content, you can get codes given away and stuff on patreon.com/GodIsAGeek. And we do the podcast, for example, as we are doing it right now, is live. After we finish, it goes away magically. And unless you were there at the time, you can only see it by Patreon, and you get the audio version delivered the same night as well, usually. And then this goes live on a Monday morning. Well, Monday, very early morning. So, with that in mind, patreon.com/GodIsAGeek. Follow us on social media. Adam and Chris, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And everyone else, we will speak to you next week. Same time, same place, or whenever you choose to listen. Bye for now.